Good day, everyone. This is Genevieve Portarcas. Together with me are my group mates, and now we will be going to rationalize the questions in our pretest. Before proceeding, let me define first what is science. According to the dictionary, science is the intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of structure and behavior of physical and natural world through observation and experiment. Understanding science highlighted that science has many phases. First, science is both a body of knowledge and process. In school, science may sometimes seem like a collection of isolated and static facts listed in the textbook. Science is also a process of discovery that allows us to link isolated facts into coherent and comprehensive understanding of the natural world. Second, science is exciting. Science is a way of discovering what's in the universe and how those things work today, how they work in the past, and how they are likely to work in the future. Science is useful. The knowledge generated by science is powerful and reliable. Science is ongoing. Science is continually refining and expanding our knowledge of the universe, and as it does, it leads to a new question for future investigation. Lastly, science is a global human endeavor. People all over the world participate in the process of science. And now, let's proceed to the questions.
Question number 1. Bile is secreted by the liver and it is stored in the blank. A. Large intestine. B. Kidney. C. Gallbladder. Or D. Pancreas. Bile is this yellow or greenish fluid nga naa sa apdo and pait ni siya kung nakatilaw mo, and its function is in the emulsification and absorption of fats, and apdo in English is letter C, gallbladder. Question number 2. Which law of force and motion explains this occurrence when a rocket is propelled upward by the downward discharge of exhaust gases? Is it letter A, inertia, letter B, universal gravitation, letter C, acceleration, or letter D, interaction? So the correct answer here is letter D, interaction, or Newton's third law of motion, which states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So in a rocket, burning fuel creates a push on the front of the rocket, pushing it forward, and this creates an equal and opposite push on the exhaust gas backwards. So the answer is letter D. Question number 3. Humans reproduce when an ovum is combined with sperm, leading to the development of an embryo, and this form of reproduction is called blank. Letter A, binary fission. Letter B, asexual reproduction. Letter C, budding. Or letter D, fertilization. So the answer is not binary fission, since binary fission is an asexual reproduction where the organism duplicates its genetic material and divides into two parts. It is also not budding, since budding is another type of asexual reproduction where a new organism is developed from an outgrowth or bud due to the cell division at one particular site of its parent organism. So asexual reproduction does not involve the fusion of gametes like what happened here in the ovum and the sperm. So the answer here is letter D, fertilization. Okay, number 4. Which of the following activities help reduce water pollution? Is it letter A, the use of soap and detergent? Letter B, desalination of seawater to potable water? Letter C, setting up flood control system? Or letter D, treating wastewater prior to discharge? The correct answer here is letter D, treating wastewater prior to discharge. The use of soap and detergent would definitely contribute to water pollution. And letter B, desalination of seawater to potable water only means converting seawater to drinking water, which does not really help reduce water pollution. And letter C, setting up flood control system, may perhaps reduce water pollution, but its main purpose is to prevent flood from occurring. So the answer here is letter D, treating wastewater prior to discharge. I don't know if we do this in our country, but in other places like in the States, they treat their water, wastewater, before they throw it in the environment through certain techniques or processes like disinfection, filtration, coagulation, etc. Number 5, what is the main organ for respiration? Is it letter A, esophagus, letter B, lungs, C, nose, letter D, heart? Of course, these organs are all involved in the process of respiration, but we are asking here for the main organ. So the answer is letter B, lungs. Number 6, a hypothetical ecosystem contains lettuce, the producer, caterpillar, the primary consumer, a small passerine bird, the secondary consumer, and a lion, the tertiary consumer. A gardener arrives and sprays pesticide, killing all the caterpillars. What happens to the ecosystem? Is it letter A, the passerine birds will thrive? Letter B, the lions will die? Letter C, the passerine birds will convert to herbivores? Or letter D, the lettuce will wilt and die? The direct effect of exterminating or killing these caterpillars is that the passerine birds which feed on them will definitely not thrive, since you take away its main source of food, and the disappearance of the caterpillars would of course enable the lettuce to thrive. So D is not the correct answer also. So the probable answer here is letter B, the lions will die, since lions feed on the small passerine birds which most likely have already migrated to other places. Question number 7, what is the molecule that allows plants to capture energy from sunlight? Let's see, letter A, oxygen, letter B, carbohydrates, letter C, ATP, or letter D, chlorophyll. The answer is, of course, chlorophyll. Question number 8, a human's arm, a bat's wing, and a seal's flipper are examples of blank. Is it letter A, analogous organs, letter B, homologous organs, letter C, embryonic organs, or letter D, vestigial organs? The correct answer is letter B, homologous organs. Homologous organs are organs having similar structural plan but different functions. For example, the bat's wing is used for flying, the seal's flipper is used for swimming, and the human's arm is used for grabbing and many other functions. So they all have different functions, but they share the same structural plan. It is not analogous organ, since analogous organ is the opposite of homologous organs. Analogous organ means different structure but perform a common function. For example, the wings of the butterfly and the wings of a bat, they are all both used for flying, but they have different structures. Number 9, which of the following is an organism that feeds on necrotic and decaying matter? The answer is letter A, vulture. I don't know if you guys have seen it in movies, but vultures are types of birds that will circle around an animal or a person that is close to dying, and when that animal dies, they would feed on them. It's not parakeet, since parakeet is a kind of parrot, and algae does photosynthesis. It's like plants, and yeast feeds on sugars. So the answer is letter A, vulture. Okay, question number 10. The asexual reproduction which occurs when a new organism develops from an outgrowth is called letter C, budding. Number 11. Sound travels fastest in blank. A, solid, letter B, air, letter C, vacuum, letter D, liquid. Sound waves are longitudinal waves that needs a medium to travel through. They cause particles of the medium to vibrate parallel to the direction of wave travel. So the more particles there are, the quicker sound can travel. So the answer here is letter A, solid. Number 12. Predation is a relationship exemplified by blank. An orchid attached to the trunk of a narrow tree is commensalism. A tapeworm living in the tummy of a toddler is parasitism. A clownfish living within sea anemone is mutualism. So the answer is letter B, a hunter shooting a duck in the forest and having it for dinner. Question 13. We classify air as blank. It's not a compound, electrolytes, or element. It is a mixture of gases. So letter D, mixture. Question 14. Which of the following include all the others? So the answer is letter A, because ecosystem includes the individual, community, and the population. Question 15. Of the following, the only safe blood transfusion would be, the answer is letter C, group O blood into group AB person. Red blood cells in group O blood doesn't have antigens, making them the safest blood to be used for transfusion. Number 16. What is the pressure exerting on the plasma membrane against the cell wall of bacteria, fungi, and plant cell? Answer is letter C, Turgor pressure. Turgor pressure pushes the plasma membrane against the cell wall and causes in-plane mechanical tension within the cell wall, providing structural integrity to the cell. Number 17, of the following, the lightest element on Earth is letter C, hydrogen, having the mass of 1.6735 to negative 34 grams. Question 18, which organism is an example of fungus? Is it letter A, algae, B, yeast, C, euglenoids, or letter D, entamoeba? So the answer is letter B, yeast. Yeast are single-celled microorganisms that are classified along with molds and mushrooms as members of the kingdom fungi. Question number 19. Perfumes contain organic compound called blank. Is it letter A, alcohol, B, ethers, C, acids, or D, esters? The correct answer is letter D, esters. Esters are organic compounds produced by a reaction between an alcohol and a carboxylic acid. They are made up of a sequence of carbon and oxygen chains known as ester linkage. Question number 20. Which of the following is a segment worm that can be used to facilitate anticoagulation? The answer is letter B, leeches. Leech saliva contains hirudin, an anticoagulant and antiplatelet agent that works to prevent blood clots and reduce the amount of congested blood in the tissues. This treatment is called leech therapy.
Question number 21. Which of the following is an example of a useful function of bacteria? A. Can clean up an oil spill by digesting hydrocarbons. B. May be used as vectors to introduce proteins. C. Can synthesize new forms of heavy metals. D. May be pathogenic and cause human disease. The answer is letter A. Can clean up oil spill by digesting hydrocarbons. Have you heard from the news before na kanang large amount of oils from large boats na nikalat sa dagat and that oil is toxic to marine life? So to clean it, they use oil-eating bacteria to break down hydrocarbons nga naa sa oil. It is a chemical present in crude oil, natural gas, and coal. Human ingestion of this chemical can cause diarrhea. Question number 22. Which protist can cause dysentery? A. Grilla buringal, B. Plasmodium vivax, C. Streptococcus, and D. Entamoeba histolytica. The answer is Entamoeba histolytica. So dysentery is another word for diarrhea. And Entamoeba histolytica is a protozoa that causes amoebiasis or amoeba. Amoebiasis is a disease characterized by severe diarrhea. So the answer is letter D. Number 23. Which of the following is an alkaloid? A. Nicotine, B. Aspirin, C. Eucalyptus, letter D. Menthol. The answer is letter A. Nicotine. So alkaloid are a class of basic, naturally occurring organic compound that contains at least one nitrogen atom. Nicotine contains two nitrogen atoms, while aspirin, eucalyptus, and menthol contains none. So the answer is letter A, nicotine. Question number 24. Which organism is classified under kingdom fungi? A. Red algae, B. Microsporidia, C. Diatoms, and letter D. Streptococcus. The answer is letter B. Microsporidia. Because red algae is a protist, while diatoms and Streptococcus belong to kingdom Eubacteria or Monera. Question number 25. Which is true about lithosphere? A. Crust and upper mantle, B. Crust and water on it, C. Continents and crust, D. Crust and core. The answer is letter E, A. Simply because lithosphere is composed of crust and upper mantle. 26. The waste product of photosynthesis is blank. A. Carbon monoxide, B. Nitrogen, C. Carbon dioxide, D. Oxygen. So the answer is letter D. Oxygen. Since carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, option A, and nitrogen, option B, has nothing to do with photosynthesis. while carbon dioxide is one of the requirements for photosynthesis to happen. And oxygen is produced when water or H2O was break down during photosynthesis. So the answer is letter D, oxygen. Number 27. The molecules that contain an organism's genetic makeup is called blank. A. Genetic membrane. B. Nucleic acid. C. Nucleolus. D. Cytosol. The answer is letter B, nucleic acid. This is because option A, C, and D are all organelles. Nucleic acid examples are DNA and RNA. Question number 28. Which is called the building block of life? A. System. B. Organ. C. Cell. D. Tissue. So, it is pretty obvious. The answer is letter C, cell, the building block of life. 29. Volcanic eruptions are also accompanied by earthquakes. What causes these earthquakes? A. Movement of magma through vents. B. Melting and boiling of rocks inside the volcano. C. Movement of rock layers along faults. D. Throwing out of a huge amount of volcano ash. So we have the clue word, which is volcanic eruption. So automatically, option C will be eliminated since movement of rock layer along faults is the main cause of earthquake by tectonic plate movement. So option B does not necessarily causes earthquake since melting and boiling of rock does not cause movement along plates. So option D, volcanic ash explosion does not necessarily generate earthquakes. So movement of magma through vents causes rock to break. So movement of magma increases pressure, which will eventually create vibration on Earth's crust. So the answer is letter A, movement of magma through vents. Number 30. What are the thin structures essential for cytokinesis, amoeboid movement, and changes in cell shape? A. Nanofilaments. B. Myosin filaments. C. Microfilaments. And D. Pseudofilaments. The answer is letter C, microfilaments. So microfilaments is also called as actin filaments, is a protein found in cytoplasm of eukaryotic cells and is responsible for amoeboid movement, cell motility, and change in cell shape. While option A, nanofilaments or the intermediate filaments, is responsible in getting or giving cells their elastic properties, and they anchor nucleus within the cell. So, mucin filaments is responsible for muscle contraction. And option D, the pseudofilaments, plays a key role in locomotion and feeding of pseudopods. So the answer is letter C, microfilaments. Number 31. In Pacific area, a storm is called blank. A. Hurricane. B. El Nino. C. Typhoon. D. La Nina. The answer is letter C. Since El Nino is characterized by extreme heat and La Nina is characterized by extreme rainfall, hurricane is a storm that forms or moves through North Atlantic Ocean, while typhoon moves along Western Pacific Ocean. Question number 32. What are the small hair-like structures that serves sensory function in eukaryotic cells? A. Plasma membrane. B. Centromere. C. Actin filaments. D. Cilia. So the answer is D. Cilia. Since centromere is a structure that links two sister chromatids, and plasma membrane is a membrane that envelopes the cell, and the actin filaments or the microfilaments are being explained by the previous questions. So the answer is cilia. It is a small hair-like structures that serve as the sensory function in eukaryotic cells. Question number 33. The feeding connections between all life forms are referred to as blank. So we have the clue words here, the feeding connection, and also all life forms. So we have option A, nutrition cycles, B, food web, C, biochemical pathways, letter D, fossil cycle. So we have the answer, food web, because nutrition cycles is a cycle by which nutrients passes through in order to be recycled or to be utilized. Option C, biochemical pathways, includes metabolic pathways. And fossil cycle is the process of fossilization. So the answer is letter B, food web. So 34. Question 34. What causes night and day? A, Earth revolves around the sun. B, Moon rotates. C, Moon revolves around the Earth. D, Earth rotates. So the correct answer is letter D, simply because Earth rotates 24 hours a day. Question number 35. The bond in sodium fluoride is which of the following types of chemical bond? A, covalent, B, ionic, C, metallic, D, hydrogen. So we have sodium. Sodium is a non-metal, while fluorine is a metal. So covalent bond is a bond between non-metals. Example, H2O or water. So while metallic bond is a bond between metal and metals. Hydrogen bond is a bond between base pairs. So the answer is letter B, ionic, since ionic bond is a bond between non-metal and metals. Question number 36. Who was the father of modern taxonomy and responsible for coining the term Homo sapiens for human? A, Chatton, B, Aristotle, C, H, Copeland, D, Linnaeus. So the answer is letter D. This will be discussed during our review session. Question number 37. What is possible consequence of eutrophication? A, water that is colorless or color-free. B, significantly diminished sea harvest by fishermen. D, decreased toxicity. C, decreased toxicity of bodies of water. D, less turbidity of water. So the answer is letter B, significantly diminished sea harvest by fishermen. Because eutrophication is the increase in the concentration of phosphorus, nitrogen, and other plant nutrients which lead to excessive plant and algae growth in the surface of aquatic ecosystem such as lake. With this, it shall cover sunlight, which leads to destruction of marine benthic habitat by shading of submerged vegetation. Question number 38. What is the maximum number of electrons that occupy F orbital? So the answer is letter D. Since electron configuration, if you know, we have S is equal to 2, P is equal to 6, D is equal to 10, and F is equal to 14. So the answer is letter D, 14. Question number 39. Which of the following statements is true about a textbook laid on the table? A, the textbook undergoes deceleration. B, the textbook undergoes acceleration. C, no force is acting on it. And D, the sum of the forces acting upon it is 0. So the answer is letter D. Because option A, it will not decelerate because it does not move. The answer is letter D, since the sum of the force is 0 because the downward force exerted by the book on the table is equal to the upward force exerted by the table to the book. The answer is letter D. Question number 40. Element X has an electron configuration of 1s raised to 2, 2s raised to 2, and 2p raised to 2. Based on information, element X belong to A or unblank family. A. Alkali metal, B. Inert gas, C. Halogen, D. Carbon. The answer is letter D. Carbon, because we shall count its electron configuration. We have 1s raised to 2, we have 2, then 2s raised to 2, we have another 2, we have now 4, and then lastly we have 2p raised to 2. A total of 6. If we look at the periodic table, the sixth element is carbon, and it belongs to the family of carbon group. Carbon group is composed of 5 elements, namely carbon, silicon, germanium, lead, and tin.
Next is number 41. This is true about dominant genes. Letter A should be paired with a recessive gene in order to be expressed. Letter B, it prevents the expression of another gene in the same locus. Letter C, are aggressive and express the more beneficial traits. Or letter D, will not be expressed if heterozygous. Under Mendelian's law of dominance, there are two types of genes, the dominant and the recessive gene. He defined dominant gene as a gene that prevents the expression of another gene in the same locus. So the answer for number 41 is letter B. Next is number 42. Besides solid, liquid, and gas, what is the fourth form of matter? Letter A, gel, B, colloid, C, plasma, or letter D, foam. Gel and foam are all examples of colloid since it is a mixture of two or more substances. And colloid is a type of liquid since it has a definite volume but indefinite shape. So the answer for number 42 is letter C, plasma. Next is 43. Which of the following is the lowest rank of coal and it is otherwise called brown coal? Letter A, charcoal, letter B, lignite, C, anthracite, or letter D, bituminous. So if you rank the order of coal, lignite has the least carbon, followed by bituminous, and next is anthracite. So the answer for number 43 is letter B rather. Next is 44. If carbohydrates are hydrophilic organic compounds, lipids are blank organic compounds. Since carbohydrates are hydrophilic, lipids contains fats that makes it unable to dissolve in water. So lipids are hydrophobic. So the answer for number 44 is letter B. Next is 45. This is true of recessive genes. A will only have phenotypic expression if present as a homozygous genotype. Letter B should be paired with a dominant gene for it to be expressed. Letter C will prevent a dominant gene from expressing its phenotype, or letter D have more superior phenotypic traits. Letter B, C, and D refers to dominant genes, so the answer for number 45 is letter A. Next is 46. Which two chemical factors causes decomposition? Letter A, putrefaction development, B, death and cellular respiration, letter C, autolysis and photosynthesis, or letter D, autolysis and putrefaction. So the two chemical factors that causes decomposition is autolysis and putrefaction. Since autolysis is a self-digestion or destruction of its own by its own enzymes, and putrefaction is the breakdown of tissues with the help of fungi and bacteria. So the answer for number 46 is letter D. Next is number 47. An atom of silicon has a mass number of 28 and an atomic number of 14. How many protons are in this atom? Letter A, 14, B, 12, C, 28, or letter D, 7. Since atomic number also refers to the number of protons, and silicon has 14 atomic number, thus, silicon has 14 protons. So the answer for number 47 is letter A. Next, 48. It is a very hot gas of nuclei and electrons. A, solid, B, plasma, C, tokamak, or letter D, vendetta. Plasma is a superheated matter, and it is so very hot that the electrons are being ripped away from its atoms. So the answer for number 48 is letter B, plasma. 49. Which type of reaction does the general equation AB plus energy yields to A plus B show? A. Endothermic synthesis, B. Exothermic decomposition, C. Endothermic synthesis, or letter D. Endothermic decomposition. So basically the equation is a process of decomposition since it is a reaction that breaks down a single product into two substances. And with the presence of the plus energy here, we can conclude that it needs energy. So the answer for number 49 is endothermic decomposition, letter D. Next is 50. The protein shell of a virus is called blank. A. Nucleolus, B. Nucleic acid, C. Nucleus, or letter D. Capsid. The answer for number 50 is capsid. Since nucleolus, nucleic acid, and nucleus are all organelles found within a cell. Next, 51. Alcohol is a class of organic compound characterized by A. A halogen attached to an alkyl group, B. A carbonyl group bounded to two carbon atoms, C. A hydroxyl bonded to an alkyl group, or letter D. A carbonyl attached to an ether linkage. So the answer for number 51 is letter C. A hydroxyl bonded to an alkyl group. Since alcohol has negative OH and it is bonded to an alkyl group or C carbon linkages. Next is number 52. What is the classification for polysaccharides, triglycerides, polypeptides, and nucleic acids? Letter A. Acids and bases, B. Macromolecules, C. Phospholipids, or letter D. Carbohydrates. Polysaccharides, triglycerides, polypeptides, and nucleic acids are large molecules that are being built by combining monomers to polymers. Thus, they are called macromolecules. So the answer for number 52 is letter B. Next is 53. Of the following organisms, which are included under kingdom Plantae? A. Fungi, B. Magnolidae, C. Prokaryotes, or letter D. Protozoa. Magnolidae is a type of a flowering plant, thus Magnolidae is under kingdom Plantae. So the answer for number 53 is letter B. Next, number 54. Which element has capital letter T and small letter E as its symbol? Letter A. Terbium, B. Titanium, C. Tellurium, D. Technetium. So terbium has its symbol Tb, titanium Ti, and technetium Tc. So the answer for number 54 is letter C, tellurium. Next, 55. What do you call in the stage of decomposition wherein muscles become rigid? A. Livor mortis, B. Rigor mortis, C. Autolysis, and D. Algor mortis. Livor mortis is when the skin becomes pinkish, bluish, and blotchy. Algor mortis is when the body cooling from normal internal temperature of the environment. And autolysis is a type of decomposition wherein an organism undergoes self-digestion. So the answer for number 55 is letter B, rigor mortis. Next is 56. Which element has capital letter C, small letter A as its symbol? A. Cadmium, B. Californium, C. Carbon, or letter D. Calcium. Cadmium has its symbol Cd, Californium Cf, and carbon letter C. So the answer for number 56 is calcium, or Ca, with its atomic number 20. Next is 57. Which of the following processes involves chloroplast? A. Conversion of light energy to chemical energy, B. Formulation of reproductive cells, C. Cell division, or letter D. Synthesis. Chloroplast is an organelle that conducts photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is the conversion of light energy to chemical energy. So the answer for number 57 is letter A. Next is 58. Who discovered penicillin? A. Fleming, B. Mendel, C. Curie, or letter D. Darwin. So the answer for number 58 is letter A. Mr. Alexander Fleming is a Scottish physician-scientist who discovered penicillin by accident. And number 59. If an object has kinetic energy, then it also must have A. Momentum, B. Force, C. Acceleration, or letter D. Impulse. The answer for number 59 is letter A. Momentum. Since kinetic energy is equals to P raised to Z over 2m, where P is referred to momentum. Next is number 60. Which of the following is heterotrophy? A. Moss, B. Grasshopper, C. Algae, or letter D. Fern. Moss, algae, and fern are all examples of autotrophs. So the answer for number 60 is letter B. Grasshopper, since it feeds on plants.
Number 61. Iron is what type of magnetic material? Letter A. Non-magnetic, letter B. Ferromagnetic, letter C. Paramagnetic, or letter D. Diamagnetic. The correct answer is letter B. Ferromagnetic. Ferromagnetic materials are strongly attracted by a magnet field or magnet, just like iron, steel, nickel, cobalt, and etc. Number 62. In biology, parts of the flower were analyzed. It is done to letter A. Enable scientists proper identification of organism, letter B. Give biologists something to do, letter C. Widen the field of biological science, or letter D. Enable the location of organisms' habitat. The correct answer is letter A. It is done to enable scientists proper identification of organism. Number 63. Foams, emulsions, and sols are heterogeneous mixture. To what type do they belong? Letter A. Pure solutions, letter B. Colloidal dispersions, letter C. Solutions, or letter D. Suspensions. The correct answer is letter B. Colloidal dispersions. A colloidal dispersion is composed of solid, liquid, or gas particles dispersed in a continuous phase. It is inherently thermodynamically unstable system because it tends to minimize surface energy. Number 64. Halo-halo, heterogeneous, blank, homogeneous. Letter A. Mayonnaise, letter B. Marshmallow, letter C. Vinegar, or letter D. Fag. The correct answer is letter C. Vinegar. Vinegar is a homogeneous solution because it is completely uniform solution. Vinegar is composed of water and acetic acid, and acetic acid is soluble in water. If you were to sample any given part of the water acetic acid solution, you would obtain the same substance. Number 65. Which planet is the closest to the Earth with a distance of 42 million kilometers? Letter A. Mars, letter B. Venus, letter C. Saturn, or letter D. Jupiter. The correct answer is letter B. Venus. Its distance from the Earth is 42 million kilometers. Number 66. In taxonomy, which classification is arranged from largest related groups to the smallest? Letter A. Species, genus, order, family, class, phylum, kingdom. Letter B. Species, order, genus, family, class, phylum, kingdom. Letter C. Kingdom, class, phylum, order, family, genus, species. Or letter D. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. The correct answer is letter D. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So these are the 7 main taxonomic ranks arranged from largest related groups to the smallest. Number 67. A mango leaf is at which level in the hierarchical organization of life? Letter A. Tissue, letter B. Organ, letter C. Organelle, or letter D. Population. The correct answer is letter B. Organ. A leaf is composed of more than one type cell. Therefore, it is an organ. It also performs various functions like transpiration, photosynthesis, protein synthesis, while a tissue performs only a specific function. Number 68. In which of these is the correct representation of the hierarchical organization of life from least to most complex? Letter A. Hydrogen, water, heart muscle cells, nucleus, heart muscle tissue, heart, human. Letter B. Hydrogen, water, nucleus, heart muscle cell, heart muscle tissue, heart, human. Letter C. Hydrogen, water, nucleus, heart muscle cell, heart, heart muscle tissue, human, or letter D, water, hydrogen, nucleus, heart muscle cell, heart muscle tissue, heart, human. The correct answer is letter B, hydrogen, water, nucleus, heart muscle cell, heart muscle tissue, heart, human. It is the correct representation of the hierarchical organization of life from least to most complex. Number 69. In which of the following is an alternative to ozone-depleting substances? Letter A, hydrofluorocarbons. Letter B, chlorofluorocarbons. Letter C, carbon tetrachloride. Or letter D, methyl bromide. The correct answer is letter A, hydrofluorocarbons. Hydrofluorocarbons are a group of industrial chemicals primarily used for cooling and refrigeration. HFCs were developed to replace stratospheric ozone-depleting substances that currently being phased out under the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete ozone layer. Number 70. Carbon dioxide is produced by the plants in the blank. Letter A, evening. Letter B, afternoon. Letter C, noon. Or letter D, morning. The correct answer is letter A, evening. Plants excrete more carbon dioxide at night compared to during the day because they cannot do photosynthesis at night. Number 71. The following are parts of the circulatory system except letter A, lungs, letter B, blood, letter C, heart, letter D, blood vessel. The correct answer is letter A, lungs. Lungs is part of respiratory system, not circulatory system. Number 72. Which among the following is the single most important effect of radiation debate against nuclear power? Letter A, Chernobyl accident. Letter B, Minamata accident. Letter C, Haiti incident. Or letter D, Ormok tragedy. The correct answer is letter A, Chernobyl accident. The Chernobyl accident in 1986 was the result of a flawed reactor design that was operated with inadequately trained personnel. The resulting stream explosion and fires released at least 5% of the radioactive reactor core into the environment, with the disposition of radioactive materials in many parts of Europe. Number 73. Nuclear power relies on which of the following chemical reactions? Letter A, nuclear fusion. Letter B, binary fission. Letter C, chemismosis. Or letter D, nuclear fission. The correct answer is letter D, nuclear fission. Nuclear energy can be used to create electricity, but it must first be released from the atom. In the process of nuclear fission, atoms are split to release that energy. A nuclear reactor or power plant is a series of machines that can control nuclear fission to produce electricity. Number 74. Which of the following has the smallest mass when measured in an equal arm balance? Letter A, 1/8 sheet of bond paper. Letter B, 1/3 sheet of bond paper. Letter C, 1/4 sheet of bond paper. Or letter D, 1/2 sheet of bond paper. The correct answer is letter A, 1/8 sheet of bond paper. It is because it's pretty obvious that among the choices, 1/8 is the smallest mass. Number 75. Why is the Philippines much hotter than Canada? The Philippines blank. Letter A, receive sun rays closer to vertical position. Letter B, has more vegetation to absorb sunlight. Letter C, has days with more hours of light. Or letter D, has denser population than Canada. The correct answer is letter A. The Philippines receive sun rays closer to vertical position. It is also because Canada is located to the polar region, while Philippines is considered as a tropical country. Number 76. Geothermal energy, an energy resource in the country, is based on which phenomenon? Letter A, Earth's internal energy heats its surface more than the sun does. Letter B, there are concentrations of heat in some places of Earth's crust. Letter C, heat energy from the sun penetrates deep into the earth. Or letter D, human activity is the largest source of heat energy on Earth. The correct answer is letter B. There are concentrations of heat in some places of Earth's crust. Geothermal energy arises from the ancient heat remaining in Earth's core. Number 77. Bagoong smells because blank. Letter A, air and volatile particles from bagoong mix and get spoiled further. Letter B, that is the natural scent of bagoong. Letter C, molecules from bagoong spread in air. Or letter D, it uses spoiled fish ingredients. The correct answer is letter C. Molecules from bagoong spread in air that we breathe in. Number 78. Fungi absorbs the nutrients from dead organisms. In an ecosystem, what roles do they play? Letter A, producers. Letter B, carnivore. Letter C, saprophytes. Or letter D, epiphytes. The correct answer is letter C, saprophytes. A saprophyte is an organism which gets its energy from dead and decaying organic matter. Number 79. An elderly man suffered a stroke, a restriction of blood flow to the brain. If the stroke caused to the right side of his body to become temporarily paralyzed, he most likely experienced a decreased blood flow to letter A, the left side of his brain, letter B, the back of his brain, letter C, the right side of his brain, or letter D, the left side of his body. The correct answer is letter A, the left side of his brain. It is because the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, and the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. Number 80. Which of the following is an example of a symbiotic relationship? Letter A, wolves working together to hunt in a pack. Letter B, plants growing in the same rolling meadow. Letter C, humans and their pets living in the same home. Or letter D, weeds clinging to the roots of trees in your backyard. The correct answer is letter D, weeds clinging to the roots of trees in your backyard. The roots of the trees absorb nutrients from the weeds, and the weeds can consider trees as its habitat.
Number 81. When molecules of a drop food coloring turn a glass full of water into red, what process has occurred? A. Solution. B. Osmosis. C. Absorption. D. Diffusion. The correct answer is A. Solution, because a solution is a homogeneous mixture of one or more solutes dissolved in a solvent. As we can see in the question, the water is the solute and the food coloring is the solvent. That's why the answer is A. Solution. Number 82. What must be provided to keep animals alive for the longest possible time? A. Carbon dioxide. B. Oxygen. C. Light energy. D. Nitrates. The correct answer is B. Oxygen, because oxygen helps organisms grow, reproduce, and turn food into energy. Humans get the oxygens they need by breathing through their nose and mouth into their lungs. And also oxygen gives the cells the ability to break down food in order to get the energy we need to survive. Number 83. Why is a silver spoon colder to touch than a wooden spoon when both are placed at room temperature? Because silver is A. Shiner. B. A better conductor of heat. C. A better insulator of heat. D. A bad radiator of heat. The answer is B. A better conductor of heat, because silver loses its heater faster than wood, hence it will be cooler. Number 84. How many complete pathways of electricity are there in a series circuit? A. 1. B. 2. C. 4. D. Depends on the number of bulbs. The correct answer is 1. Because a series circuit is one in which there is only one pathway for the electric current to flow. The components are arranged one after another in a single pathway. When we connect the components, we say that they are connected in series. Number 85. Which of the iron-containing compounds gives the red corpuscle their color? A. Fibrinogen, B. Serum globulin, C. Hemoglobin, D. Albumin. The correct answer is C. Hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is found in the red blood cells, have the rich red color because of the vitally important iron-containing protein called hemoglobin. Number 86. If you lose your direction while traveling at night, which star should you look for and in what constellation? A. Polaris and Ursa Major, B. Sirius and Ursa Major, C. Polaris and Ursa Minor, and D. Sirius and Ursa Minor. The correct answer is C. Polaris and Ursa Minor, because Polaris is the brightest star in the Ursa Minor constellation and has been used by sailors for navigating the sea. Astronomers usually call the Little Bear constellation Ursa Minor, or in the Latin word Little Bear. 87. Which has more mass, a kilogram of cotton or a kilogram of diamond? A. Diamond, B. Cotton, C. Cannot be determined, B. Both have same mass. The correct answer is both have same mass, because based on the statement states that a kilogram of cotton and a kilogram of diamond, it didn't state how many kilogram. That's why the answer is D. Both have same mass. 89. Blocks of roads are left with narrow gaps in between them in order to A. Make roads with equal blocks and gaps, B. Serve as passage of water during rainy days, C. Gives allowance to expansion during hot days, D. Hold extra dust and small particles of sand. The correct answer is C. Give allowance for expansion during hot days. Due to the heat of the sun, it will expand, called as thermal expansion due to the increase of its temperature. Number 89. What is the molecule that allows plants to capture energy from sunlight? A. ATP, B. Oxygen, C. Carbohydrates, D. Chlorophyll. The correct answer is chlorophyll, because chlorophyll is a substance that gives plants their green color. It helps plants absorb energy and get their nutrients from sunlight during the biological process known as photosynthesis. Number 90. Dengue is an infectious disease transmitted by an organism classified under which phylum? A. Chordata, B. Arthropoda, C. Hemichordate, D. Echinodermata. The correct answer is Arthropoda, because Arthropoda is a large phylum of invertebrate animals that includes insects, spiders, crustaceans, and their relatives. We also know that dengue is came from mosquito, and mosquito is classified into phylum Arthropoda. 91. The source of water pollution is when water from a river is mixed with the contents of a septic tank. This called A. Water condensation, B. Hydraulic theory, C. Water manipulation, D. Hypertrophication. The correct answer is hypertrophication, because it is an enrichment of water by nutrient salt that causes structural changes to the ecosystem, such as increase the production of algae and aquatic plants, depletion of fish species, general deterioration of water quality, and other effects that reduce and preclude use. 92. What is unique feature of fungi? A. They contain mitochondria, B. They contain genetic material, C. Some are capable of bioluminescence, D. They combine chitin and glucans in cell wall. The correct answer is D. They combine chitins and glucans in a cell wall, because a fungi has a cell wall composition consists of both chitin and beta-glucan molecules. 93. What organism would most likely be in Arctic environment? A. Maya bird, B. Turtle, C. Walrus, D. Crocodile. The correct answer is C. Walrus, because a walrus is a large flippered marine mammal with a discontinuous distribution about the North Pole in the Arctic Ocean and subarctic seas of the Northern Hemisphere. 94. The union of an ovum and sperm inside the test tube is A. Embryology, B. In vitro fertilization, C. In vivo fertilization, D. Pollination. The correct answer is B. In vitro fertilization. This is a complex series of procedures used to help with fertility or prevent genetic problems and assist with the conception of a child. During this procedure, mature eggs are collected from ovaries and fertilized by sperm in a lab. 95. Which technology can lead to the formation of a new genetic trait? A. Tissue culture, B. Embryo transplant, C. Exposure to radiation, D. Asexual reproduction. The correct answer is A. Tissue culture. It is a method of biological research in which fragments of tissue from an animal or plant are transferred to an artificial environment in which they can continue to survive and function. The cultured tissue may consist of a single cell, a population of cells, or a whole or a part of an organ. 96. Of the following, which is an example of a natural altered state of awareness? A. Sedation, B. Intoxication, C. Sleep, D. Drug high. The correct answer is C. Sleep, because it is a unique state of consciousness. It lacks full awareness, but the brain is still active. People generally follow a biological clock that impacts when they naturally become drowsy, when they fall asleep, and the time they naturally awaken. 97. Object, person, or situation which when perceived causes action or reaction. A. Sound, B. Stimulus, C. Sight, D. Scent. The correct answer is B. Stimulus, because stimulus is anything that produces a response in an organism or in a cell or tissue of an organism. Maybe it is an internal or external stimuli. 98. Which of the following best demonstrates the greenhouse principle? A. A heated aquarium, B. A solar battery powered calculator, C. A microwave, D. A vehicle with rolled up windows. The correct answer is D. A vehicle with rolled up windows, because light from the sun passes through the glass roof of the greenhouse to heat the plants and ground inside. This object then emits infrared radiation that is absorbed or reflected by a glass roof, thus trapping the thermal energy in a greenhouse instead of letting it escape. This helps to keep building warm and increase its temperature. 99. Which kingdom should Streptococcus be classified? A. Monera, B. Plantae, C. Fungi, D. Protesta. The correct answer is A. Monera, because they agree with the condition of bacteria. The majority of formicutes have a gram-positive cell wall structure and a cocci or rod shape. 100. Of the following, which is an example of physiological adaptation that allows survival among plants or animals? A. Frogs' powerful hind legs to jump away from predators. B. Bright color of insect-pollinated flowers. C. Chameleon's ability to change color with its environment. D. Walking stick unique shape and color. The correct answer is C. Chameleon's ability to change color with its environment in order to camouflage and not can be seen by the predators.